Hi, and welcome to AI in 5. I'm your host, Simon Chris, and joining me today from gorgeous Barcelona is Clara Hawking. Clara is the Executive Director of Compass Education, and we're going to be talking about the concept of digital debt. Hi, Clara. Thanks for joining AI in 5.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
No worries. We're going to jump right in and into a really interesting topic, a great phrase I've heard you use of digital debt, organizations having digital debt. What is digital debt?
Super question. Yes. So digital debt is when you have accumulated poor decisions that have been made under pressure when it comes to choices that you've made in technology and integration of things like generative artificial intelligence, or maybe even systems that have been brought under pressure. And so what often happens with digital debt is that we see it kind of shows up when your procurement processes have been misaligned with your mission, visions, your strategy and growth goals, when there are really unclear data practices and also AI, generative AI practices, when some tools that an organization might have bought into have been over-engineered, but there's no real integration pathway, or if you have AI projects that you're working on that have no clear ROI.
Right. And so is this just, does this kind of come about just because of FOMO, this fear of missing out? And so organizations are just jumping in, or is there more sinister?
Yeah, good question. I think that it's a little bit of both. I think that there is an interest in selling this technology and scaling it as quickly as possible. That's why big tech are pushing narratives about how important it is to buy in quickly and buy in a big general way, making quick decisions. And there are a series of unfortunate pushers. There's a lot of confidence without competence, a lot of AI influencers out there hyping the need to get in, the need to make quick decisions so that you don't miss out. And many executives do feel like they're somehow behind on AI, but can't quite put their finger on it. So they rush in to make decisions. These bold claims, these sort of half-truths, and all of these oversimplified playbooks are definitely a part of a sort of sense of sinisterness going on in the field. But there's also a lack of just general education in understanding how technology should be used. Executives, decision makers that don't have the technical background to actually make the decisions that they now need to make in today's business environment. So it's a little bit of both, actually.
So it's a bit of AI literacy lacking and a little bit of marketing hype that's kind of coming together to cause this.
Yes, absolutely. And there's never been more of a need for learners really to start seeing themselves as or leaders to see themselves as lifelong learners. There's really a need for upskilling as leaders now, not just to understand the technical parts, but understanding that this is a social technology that's fundamentally going to change your organization. And now is the time for you to learn the leadership skills that are needed in this time. So it's really a wake-up call for CEOs, for board members, for policy leads to step into to understanding how to lead and build a new infrastructure that's future ready.
Yeah, wow. And I usually ask people a question at the end about what should organizations do, but I think we're kind of headed down a path where I'd rather ask you, what would be your top 3 tips? And if you don't have 3, that's fine, but your top 3 tips for how an organization can make sure that it doesn't fall into this digital debt area.
Yeah, so this is going to be counterintuitive for someone like me who loves technology, but my number one advice is press pause. Press pause because you need to assemble your army of change makers. You need to revisit what's your growth vision and mission, and how can you use technology to achieve those goals. Not that you need technology for technology's sake, but what is it that you want to achieve as an organization, and how can technology help you? And then once you've identified that, get your team ready. So advice number 2, identify the skills you have in your organization. You'll be surprised, but it is in fact the case that in the last 3 years, many of your team members have developed new skills that weren't on their CV when you first hired them in. So identify what are the resources you have and how can you use those resources to move into the future. And then finally, what is your AI governance system? How are you using technology across your organization? You need to have a clear audit of how technology is being used, not what is being used, but how it's being used.
So pardon the oversimplification, but mindset, skill set, tool set, right? Yeah, fantastic. Look, that's great advice, and thank you for being on AI in 5. It's been great.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Take care.